Welcome to another episode of The Next Generation. Today on the podcast, I have the one, the only, Brandi Buzzard. I am so excited to have Brandi on today. She is just truly an amazing voice for agriculture. Brandi has been sharing about her agricultural journey, advocacy, things like that on social media and public speaking platforms and multiple other facets for multiple years now. And I'm just super excited to have her on today to talk more about advocating for agriculture, standing up for the community that we were raised in and believe in. And so, Brandi, I won't talk too much. I'm going to let you take it away and just let you share with the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do and all the things.
Well, thank you, Lauren. I'm excited to be here on your show. I can say that I was really uncomfortable to sit through your intro and listen to those things being said, but I am honored to be here and appreciate the invitation to be on the show. I am a rancher in Southeast Kansas. My husband and I raise Gelbvieh and Balancer seed stock. So a Balancer is a Gelbvieh crossed with an Angus, either red or black. We use the red variety of Angus. Yes, red Angus are Angus. And Gelbvieh is a breed that is not well known, but has a lot of value and to the beef industry from both a maternal standpoint, but also from a carcass standpoint. So we've been doing that. We've had our herd for about 8 years now. We've been doing this with the Gelbvieh and Balancers. We also do run grass cattle almost year round. Basically seems like now we get them in December or January. They eat silage, and then in the spring we put them out on grass, and then we either market them in August or September, or what we're doing this year is we are going to ship them to a feed yard for the first time and retain ownership. So this will be a fun little new venture for us. And then we also, since 2020 when COVID hit, we expanded our freezer beef business. So we used to market about maybe 3 head of freezer beef a year, just because it would be like a heifer that was open, or we had a steer or bull that was born like in an off season and we cut it, stuff like that. And now like it's a legitimate massive piece of our business. And now we market about 30 head of freezer beef a year. So kind of like a 3-pronged diversified ranch. I did not grow up on a production ranch. I grew up on what you would probably call a hobby ranch. My dad was involved in agriculture, or has been involved in agriculture his whole life. He grew up rodeoing, cowboying. My grandpa cowboyed at a lot of big outfits down through the Midwest, through like Iowa, Missouri, and then landed in Kansas. But we just had like roping cattle and horses and 4-H animals. So I wouldn't say that I was a rancher growing up, because it was just, like I said, it was a hobby ranch. My husband, on the other hand, is from Ohio, and he is a 5th or 6th generation in production ag. So he grew up on a diversified crop and livestock farm in Ohio. We met at K-State, Kansas State University, and so he has been production ag his whole life. And now, so I'm a 1st-generation rancher, and he is now like a 5th or 6th-generation rancher. We live here in Southeast Kansas, the cows and the kids, and so that's what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit more about like your background and just involvement in agriculture. I think it's super insightful to share about that sometimes. And I love getting a fellow small breed producer on every once in a while, because it is really awesome to hear more about the Gelbvieh breed and things like that. So that's awesome that that's what you guys are involved in and focus on. Brandi, you are a really big advocate for advocating for agriculture. You talk about it a lot. That's what a big basis of your platform has been built on. I would love to kind of hear where that started, why you started advocating for agriculture, and then just some insights that you might have from there.
Yeah. So I feel like, so my friend, I have 2 really good friends. Their names are Debbie Lyons Blythe and Carrie Mess. You might know them as Debbie is Kids, Cows, and Grass, and on the socials, and Carrie is the infamous Dairy Carrie on social media. And we like to kind of proclaim ourselves as some of the OGs of advocacy. This October will be the 15th anniversary of starting my blog, which is
Wow.
where it all started. And I'm just like, you look back at 15 and I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's a long time. But I got started in advocacy. I was a student. I was in grad school at Kansas State University, And there was our K-State Collegiate. This is a long story, folks, so buckle up. I was a student at Kansas State University, and the Kansas State Collegian, which is the school newspaper. I mean, journalism is about seeing both sides of issues and things like that, and I support that. But there were some pieces being published in the newspaper that were pretty biased and were op-eds. They weren't based in fact, and so they were kind of attacking agriculture. There was one that was talking about how like milk caused osteoporosis and ear infections, the whole quote unquote factory farming trope, like all of those things. And finally I was like, I've had it. Like, do you know where we're at? This is K-State. This is one of the best agriculture and animal science countries in the nation. So I'm not going to sit idly by. And so I wrote a letter to the editor to respond to these articles. The first rule of writing a letter to the editor, which I broke, is to look at the requirements for a letter to the editor. Most of them are supposed to be like 300 words, and mine was about 600 or something. So they rightfully so and understandably did not publish that letter to the editor. And so I was with I had this piece that I had written, and I was like, I don't know what to do with this. So there's a journalist at Drover's Online Cattle Network. His name is Chuck Jolly. I don't believe he's there anymore, but I think he retired. But he was someone I looked up to and appreciated his writing style and his presence in the industry. So I reached out to him and emailed him, and I was like, hey, this is what happened. I wrote this article. Like, can you give me some advice? What should I do with this? I don't know where to go from here. And he said, well, just email it to me and I'll look at it. So I emailed him, not knowing what he was going to do. I'm sure he was like, okay, this random gal emailed me. This is going to be, like some horrible, poorly written thing or whatever. I don't know what he was thinking. And he ended up putting it on Drovers as like his weekly column. And I thought, wow, well, that was really cool. And so since then, that happened. I thought, you know what? My ESPN just went off. Probably something to do with my fantasy lineup. And you have to leave that in there, by the way. And so,
yes.
So I thought, well, I could do this. So I started my blog in October of 2009. Yeah, 2009. Right? Yeah. Math is not my strong point. It would have been 2009. And since then, added a Facebook page at some point. I added once. You may not remember this, Lauren. I don't know how old you are. You look very, very young, which is great for you. But when Instagram first came out, you could only have it on iPhones. It was not available for Android phones. And so when I finally got an iPhone, or when they got it for Androids, I think they added it for Androids before I actually got an iPhone, and I got Instagram. And so I added that. And now I have the blog, Facebook, Instagram. I have a channel it's basically like Netflix for agriculture. It's called Acres TV. And so I have a show on that. What else? Yeah. So it's just kind of been I do a lot of public speaking about not so much teaching people how to be advocates, but more about like the inspiration to stand up for, but like also kind of rules is not the right way, but maybe like talks that have empathy threaded into them about differences in different populations. And when we're advocating, it's great to stand up for our industry, but like, let's also be mindful that we are not the know-all be-all of everything. And so, yeah, it's just really evolved quite a bit in those 15 years. So if you had told me 15 years ago, I would still be doing advocacy work, which I love, but I would also be, full-time self-employed public speaker, content creator, media strategy consultant. I would have been like, I think you have the wrong Brandi Buzzard. So
especially in 2009, like a social media content creator on Facebook. Okay.
Yeah.
Stuff has evolved insanely since you first started your blog back in 2009 and all of those things. You said it yourself. I would love to start kind of just diving into advocating for agriculture and that side of it, especially as a producer and stuff. You said it for yourself in your backstory that when you are looking at things and journalism, you have to look at both sides of the story. And sometimes in agriculture, we get really mad because other people don't do it, but then sometimes we don't do it. And there's different things like that that I would love to hear your opinion on that we get really heated sometimes, and we see a New York Times post bashing agriculture, and then we go and say something back, but then it's like, okay, there's a lot of different viewpoints here. There's a lot of different backgrounds, things like that. Where's your insight on that?
Oh, where to start? Oh, gosh, people are going to be like, this lady won't shut up. I think it's important to keep in mind when we're having any conversation or creating any kind of content, like leading with understanding and compassion. And understanding maybe first, and then empathy second.
Yeah.
If you want to rewind back to the, let's see, what was it? 2019, when the, looking at the date here to see if that's the right date. Yeah, I have my blog up on my other screen over here. So I'm like, what date was that? It was 2019 when the Green New Deal came out, or was proposed by Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. And like the frequently asked question document had some mention of like cows and flatulence and things like that in it. And the standard response for any time agriculture, still to this day, most of the standard response for any time someone does something that offends us or paints us poorly or points out, get something, or they get something wrong, they accuse of something that isn't correct, like that kind of stuff. The standard response has been, and I hope will not continue to be, but has always been like to call people like, well, those idiots in the city, they don't know what they're talking about, or like calling people stupid or something like that. And sure enough, that was the response. But like, I like to flip things on their head. I have lived in the middle of a city of about 3 million people. I lived in Melbourne, Australia for a year, and living abroad really opened my eyes to a lot of things. I don't know how to navigate. I have traveled the world, literally, and I still have trouble navigating public transportation. I still have trouble like living in a city and reminding myself not to like when you go grocery shopping in a city, when you live in a big metro area and you don't drive everywhere. There's no Walmarts in downtown cities. When you go grocery shopping every week, you're going grocery shopping multiple times a week. You're not going to Walmart and loading up on $400 worth of groceries and bringing it home, or whatever your grocery bill is. And so like the point of that is that if you don't know something, you don't know that you don't know it. It doesn't make you stupid. I'm not stupid because I struggle with navigating the Parisian tunnel system, right? I'm not stupid. I just don't do it. I don't live there. I don't know it. People who don't live on farms and ranches aren't stupid because they don't understand what we do every day, or they don't know what cattle eat, or that they don't know that cattle don't flatulate. They're not stupid. They just don't know. And I think that piece, that component is missing with a lot of advocacy sometimes, that we are so quick to jump. We want to be the first person to write a headline or create a video or something and get those likes and get those views, which I can see why people want to do that, but that shouldn't be the goal. In my opinion, we can be so quick to just like throw people under the bus and call them stupid, when in reality, like, it's not that people are stupid, they just don't know. So when the Green New Deal came out, the standard response was, well, she's an idiot, she doesn't know what she's talking about, blah 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 blah. And my response was more along the lines like, hey, I am also concerned about, I also want our environment to be healthy and clean and have clean water and clean air, because I'm the one that lives here. Like, I live in the place that you're concerned about. And so I led with that thought process of like, I understand why you're concerned, but you're getting some things off base here. These are the things that we do in the country, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I would love for you to come to the ranch. Like, it was a respectful tone that also pointed out some inconsistencies. And, that is probably one of the biggest things that I try to share with people is like, let's not lead with calling people stupid or assuming that people don't know what they're talking about or something like that, because nobody wants to be called stupid. And likely when you call someone stupid, they are immediately going to lose interest in anything that you're saying. So it's kind of two-pronged of like, let's be respectful, number one. But number two, like, what's the point of Like, there's no point in sharing a message if your first line is these people are stupid, because no one's going to listen to you. Like, the people you're trying to reach aren't going to listen to you after that. So I do talk about those things a lot. It was a long answer, but I feel like there's so much to unpack there.
No, absolutely. You are completely fine there and totally correct. Like there's a lot to unpack there. So you answered it perfectly. There's a lot to be said about leading with empathy. I think just in advocacy conversations, but just in a lot of conversations in your entire life, it really opens you up to a lot of new perspectives and ideas and stuff like that. And I think for me personally, some of the best conversations I've had with people have been with people that truly don't understand. They grew up in the inner cities. But they're hungry to learn. They're hungry to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And going into a conversation just open-minded to their viewpoints and their ideas
Mm-hmm.
opens you up as an advocate to being able to advocate better in the long run. Because if you understand in a different way how inner city people or people that maybe aren't involved in day-to-day agriculture are thinking and processing this information, it gives you that opportunity to be able to just reach broader audiences and talk to people better. And when you're leading with empathy, it gives you a reason to, you're not just leading with all of this tension and all of this like angst and just heat behind you. You're
Yeah.
leading with, hey, I want to understand you. Would you be willing to understand me in this conversation?
Yeah, that's a great way to phrase it. I want to understand you. Would you be willing to understand me? Or, or try to, like, I think that is a marvelous way to phrase it. I tell people when I do like a workshop or something about responding to negativity, or I do a couple workshops. One is like fear-based marketing, how to recognize it and respond to it. And then I do another one about just in general, like creating content that converts people, or that like gets people interested and helps them learn. And in both of those, I talk about how I write angry and then I edit like calmly. So the letter
Yeah.
to a lot of this, my career now is hedged on the fact that this blog post I wrote, well, it was a letter first that I wrote to Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, but I put it on my blog, is that um, a lot of my career now hedges on the fact that that article went viral, and then I ended up on TV multiple times and went to the White House and things like that. The letter that I wrote to Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, I wrote that when I was like hot, real hot. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if the audience can see, but I have reddish hair. We're going into the fall. I haven't been out in the sun as much. I've got the red hair running through my jeans, and I so I wrote it really angry, and I waited and like edited it the next day after I'd cooled off a little bit. And then I let my husband proof it, and he was like, maybe you need to tone it down a little bit more. And so I toned it down, and then I published it. And so I absolutely think that it's okay to have, like, I encourage having passion in the words that we're saying and the content that we're putting out. Like, absolutely, totally encourage that. But we also need to come back to like the empathy and understanding, and like, don't imply that people are less than just because they don't live on the farm or the ranch, or that they're stupid because of where they grew up or their surroundings. Like, this is not a political statement. This is a statement of like recalling. But I'm sure there are some listeners that remember what it felt like when in 2016, Hillary Clinton was running for president, and she called most of rural America deplorable.
Yeah.
How did that feel? When she called us deplorable, I didn't like it. So like, how did that think about how that made you feel? Not you specifically, Lauren, but like, agriculturists, farmers, and ranchers in general. Think about how that made us feel. Like, did you want to listen? Like, who wants to listen to someone calling them deplorable or
Yeah.
stupid or things like that? And so again, it's okay to be angry and to write it with a impassioned tone. But I do believe like you have to pull it back and tone it down in your edits. And that's how I operate when I'm teaching people or trying to help people understand how to be impactful and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to hear just a little bit more of your insight on responding to the negativity a little bit, because there's a lot of that out there, and there's a lot of people that make livings off of bashing agriculture. And sometimes, like you said, it is so good to have passion, because behind passion is where people listen to passion. They don't listen to facts all the time. They listen to people's emotion, people's stories, things like that. Facts. They're out there. Everyone can access them. But I would love to hear just a little bit more of your insight on responding to the negativity. And you said, write it heated, but respond when you're a little bit less heated, I guess you could say. But I'm sure there's a little bit more to that too.
Well, I just wrote down the people listen to passion thing that you just said, because that's great. I don't know that I've ever heard that, but that was great. So
Thank you.
I am stealing that, and I will give you a accreditation or whatever it is. What is that
Appreciate
called?
It.
That
credit,
that credit,
quote it, whatever. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Whatever.
I can't think of words.
When
Words
I
are
use
hard.
it, I will credit it to you. So on the passion lines, I know that I need to hang it up if I ever I'm scrolling and I see something that says like, you never know what you get with grocery store beef. That's disgusting, blah, blah, blah. Like if I see something like that and it doesn't immediately make me go from 0 to 275 on the anger scale, I know that I need to be done being an advocate. That is yet to happen. I still get super hot and angry when that happens. However, but maybe one day it will happen. I don't know. I might be doing this till 95. But the responding to negativity. So negativity can come from many different sources, right? And there's different kinds of it. So like there's negativity from grocery shoppers, like non-ag. I'm just going to say non-ag people. There's ag people, non-ag people.
Yep.
And that comes in the form that negativity comes in the form of someone calling me, saying I'm stupid, or saying like, factory farm, something like that. Like that's the negativity. And I could kind of read those and see like, is this person open at all to like learn anything? Or are they just saying like, are they so far gone that they have no interest in actually having a conversation and in learning anything or learning about my experience? Are they so far gone it's not worth my time, or are they open to learning? Like there's some people that make a comment to be like, I'm paraphrasing, but like I've heard a lot about factory farms. Like, is that something that you endorse or something like that? Like that is using negativity. That person is internalized the word factory farm and is like using it because they think those exist, but they are asking my opinion on it. Like that negativity, that is an opportunity for me to have a relationship and a conversation with that person. Someone saying like all cattle in the grocery store come from factory farms and grocery store beef is horrendous. Like that person, I'm not convincing that person. Like they're wrong, but I'm not convincing them.
Yeah.
So that's the negativity I get. I get that same kind of negativity around the same lines. There's a lot of ag people who will say those exact same two things, particularly the one that like, cattle come from factory farms and that's what's in grocery store beef, and you shouldn't buy grocery store beef, you should buy my homegrown beef. Like that's the message that I hear. Or that local is 100% always the option to go. Like local is great, local is relative. If you live in the middle of New York City, where are you going to find local beef, right? Like perspective, empathy, these kinds of things. So responding to producers that are being negative, I honestly feel like most producers who are being like, hateful is too strong of a word, but being like really critical of what I'm saying or using those negative terms. Like I honestly feel like there's nothing I can do with some of those producers, with most of them, because they are already living an agricultural life or production life. And they are convinced that what they're doing is absolutely the only way to do it. And what I'm doing is absolutely wrong. Like I'm not going to convince them, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to use my energy on that. And I'm also that's not who I'm trying to reach. Like if you were to scroll through my Instagram, my Facebook, I'm trying to reach grocery shoppers. That is my goal. Now, coincidentally, I do have a lot of producers that follow me, which is great because if they're sharing my stuff, sharing my content, like it's just not mathematically sound for every one of their followers and friends to be in agriculture. Like that's just not the way it's going to work. So if they're sharing my stuff, I know that non-ag people are also seeing it. So I actually appreciate having an audience that is diverse and made up of people from different backgrounds and different demographics. But my goal, like when I create content, it's mostly for consumers. So I mean, we are also consumers, but it's mostly for people who, don't have that like agriculture tie or that specific background. Um, and negativity, I sometimes have to sign off just because like when I make blog posts about, or when I make like a reel about, I'm not ashamed to feed my family Hamburger Helper or other processed foods. Like we're not eating Hamburger Helper 10 meals a week. We're not, like we're not having I shouldn't say that. I love bagel bites, but we're not having bagel bites for dinner, for lunch one day. And then for dinner, we're having SpaghettiOs. And then for breakfast, we're having I don't know. Like our diet is not composed 100% of highly processed foods, but we do eat it. Like I'm not ashamed of that. And man, I'm a rancher. And when I put that we eat processed foods, holy mama jamma, people come for me. And sometimes honestly, like, I'm not ashamed of us eating processed foods. When I post about it, I do it because there's a lot of guilt associated with being a mom, and having kids and feeding your kids and what you feed your kids. And like, if I can let one mom or one parent know that it's okay to feed your kids Hamburger Helper, it's okay for them to have the applesauce that comes from the grocery store that has citric acid in it to preserve it. Yeah. It's okay for your kids to have a granola bar that you didn't make from scratch. Like it is okay. And if I can make one mom feel better about her food choices, and also she learns about cattle ranching and beef at the same time, that's great. That's my whole goal. So sometimes when I really need some engagement on my page, I will post about eating. I will post a hamburger. I'll post a Hamburger Helper reel. And by the way, General Mills and Hamburger Helper, if you are listening to this, let's link up, because I have been eating Hamburger Helper for almost 4 decades and I love it.
Get Brandy a sponsorship right now. Let's go.
We might have. My husband and I do. We switch off for like cooking quite a bit. The summer is kind of like his biggest time to shine because I don't like to grill. I cannot multitask when you're grilling. I'm such a good multitasker. Like I can cook. If I'm in the house cooking, I can cook and make a reel about what I'm cooking. And I can be unloading the dishwasher and watching my kids. Like I can do all these things at the same time. If I'm grilling, I'm stuck at that grill. Like that's it.
Yes.
So he's the griller. And I also just don't like to do it.
That's
so
fair.
He grills, but we're going into fall now and this is my time. And so we do a good job of trading off a few nights a week, like who's doing what. And so it's my night to cook. We have to cover the silage pit tonight and, have something else at like 5 o'clock. Like it's going to be a busy night. So I just decided just now talking to you, Lauren, that we are having Hamburger Helper. So
Hamburger Helper's the move tonight.
It makes a great meal. That fly is like harassing.
It is harassing me. I have my fly swatter ready.
Where's mine? Wait. Do you use the video on this? Look, I have one too.
Yes, I do use the video.
I was going to hear you want a high five.
Oh my gosh, yes. Cheers. Cheers to our fly swatters. Oh my gosh. That is so funny. Yeah, no, it is harassing me.
General Mills and Hamburger Helper. I love y'all. Let's work together. And if you are listening to this and you're afraid of Hamburger Helper, don't be. You are feeding your family. You're giving your family a meal that has carbs and protein and vitamins in it. Put some broccoli and some mandarin oranges on the plate next to it and eat and don't feel bad.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that there's so much during that. I'm so sorry. I hope you can get
I'm here for it. I'm here for the rambling. Okay. I ramble and go off on tangents too. So you're fine. You're fine. We're 2 peas in a pod. It's fine. People know what to expect when they show up here. So
okay. That's good.
You're all good. You're all good. Yeah, I think that like a lot of what you said though is so accurate. There's a lot of fear-based marketing in agriculture. There's a lot of just the negativity around grocery shopping and negativity around like just that side of agriculture and what to buy in stores. There's been, I remember in high school, I did we had to do a public speaking speech of like a persuasive speech. And I did it over the like unnecessary labeling of like food products and stuff.
Yeah.
That, like, for like orange juice, like there are no GMOs like in any orange juice.
Gosh.
In any orange juice. Like, you don't need to buy non-GMO orange juice. There's no GMOs in orange juice.
The only orange juice brand I can find that doesn't have that on it is like the Walmart store brand.
Yes.
So
yes, which is it's just ridiculous.
I prefer. There's some things I buy a name brand, and there's some things that I don't mind buying like off brand at all. Like most of the stuff I buy is off brand, but there's some name, like I'm not buying off brand Dr. Pepper. No.
Oh no, that's fair.
I want real Dr.
That's
Pepper.
fair.
But there is a brand of orange juice that I really prefer, but they have that silly, stupid GMO, non-GMO butterfly on it. And so I don't buy it. So now we're having the off-brand, store brand, whatever orange juice because there's no butterfly on it. But I'm annoyed.
Go. Yeah.
Every time I make a grocery reel, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's everywhere though. Like that's where I was going with it, is like with the grocery store, it's in consumer-based marketing, it's in marketing within agriculture, like it's everywhere. A lot of people prescribe to the fear-based marketing, and I would love to hear just like your side of the coin on that, of how as an advocate in agriculture we can stand up for that in the grocery stores of, hey, yo, like you don't have to worry about hormones in your milk. You don't have to worry about your GMOs in your orange juice, or just GMOs in general. You don't really have to worry about them in general.
That's a big catching point because whenever I'm pointing, so whenever I do I will occasionally do like a grocery shopping reel. Like I'm a rancher and this is what I got at the grocery store this week. And when I get orange juice, I always point out, like, I don't focus too much on the choices, like why I made the choices. I just usually am like, this is what we got. I think people find it interesting, or at least I do. I watch what other people buy. So yeah, maybe they'll watch what I buy. I don't know. But when I get the orange juice, I always point out, like, I bought this orange juice because there's no silly butterfly on it. Yes. But then I always want to make like, I do a series of reels on my Instagram called Uncomfortable Truths. I think I've done 4 of them. And, like there's a fine line between saying like, there's only 10 GMOs, so you don't need to worry about your orange juice. But you also want, like, you don't need to worry about your orange juice because the label's pointless. But also, like, I don't want to imply that GMOs are bad to begin with, because they're not. Yeah. They're safe. So, like, there's a fine line there, you know, between, like, telling people don't fall for a non-GMO label on something that doesn't have a non-GMO, doesn't have a GMO counterpart. But also, like, not feeding into the fear that the label is intended to create. So there's like it's like nuanced and multi-levels and things like that. So I used to say, and I have a presentation called, you know, fear-based marketing and how to rebut it. And in it, I talk about, like, you know, why is fear so, like, good at making you make decisions, whether it be buying cars or stoves or food or whatever, you know, things like that. Why is it so good at it? And then, like, where can you see it in the food supply? And, like, what do you do when you see it? And all these things. And in it, I used to talk about how, like, there's no GMO tomatoes, and this is like labeling water wet. And then a company came out with a GMO purple cherry tomato, and now I have to take the tomato thing out because technically there are GMO tomatoes. Oh, I did. Gosh. So I tried to grow them this year. It didn't work out very well. So I need to try better.
I need you to try better next year and get some of those, and I'll come down to Southeast Kansas and pick some up.
So I don't know where you are in Kansas, but Debbie Lyons Blythe lives by Council Grove, Dwight area, which is kind of central-ish, northish central. And she was really good at getting, like, I planted all these seeds and I didn't get any of them to grow. Seedlings are not my strong point. And she got so many seedlings. She had so many purple tomatoes, and I never got up there. She offered more than once to, like, give me a plant. I just never got up there to get one. And so I need some, like, seedling growing tips from Debbie LB because she was the bomb at it. So I'm going to try again next year. It's called I would give them a shout out if I could remember the name of the company that grows them. I'm trying to think of their Instagram handle. It's like New Horizons Seeds or something. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
See, I need these purple tomatoes because I need purple, like K-State purple tomato sauce. That's what I wanted. And spaghetti sauce. Yeah. And, like, all the things. I need K-State purple, everything.
I agree. That's what I wanted. And I, like, couldn't get it. Norfolk Healthy Produce. Norfolk Healthy Produce.
Nice.
They not only have, like, the purple GMO tomatoes, they have, like, lots of purple tomato, like, other purple tomato varieties.
So that's so fun.
There you go.
I'm here for that.
Yeah.
If I was a green thumb that could do a garden, I'd be subscribing to that. My friend Sarah, I will be sending this info to her because I go raid her garden every
Gotcha.
spring and
I'm
summer,
pretty
and she
good at the
just gives me the
gardening
rest.
thing. I'm just not with the starting seedlings. Like once the
That's fair.
plants from the seedling to the garden is not my strong point, but from once it's in the ground,
Yeah.
man, I've got a great garden, like usually all the way through the end of October. I picked 17 tomatoes yesterday, and
Oh
there are
my
probably
gosh.
12 or 13 more that'll be ready today. Which
Wow.
17 is 17. Someone's probably like, oh, that's not that many. For the number of tomato plants I have, 17 is a lot. And I also don't eat tomatoes, so I have
Yeah.
my neighbors are my neighbors, and like they get a big benefit of all that. So
They reap the benefits of your tomato plants. I
yes,
love
yes
that.
they do. Yeah.
I love it so much. Kind of like back onto just like the fear-based marketing within the grocery stores and stuff like that. Like as a person advocating for agriculture, what is your advice for people to like step into that realm of advocacy? I guess you could say that is more like direct to consumers. It's not just like advocating for the industry, but it's advocating for the products of the industry.
So you mean like if you see it at a grocery store, what do you do? Is that what you're?
Kind of that, but then also just like sharing that, like, hey, this isn't bad for you, this is good for you, like kind of what you were talking about, like you are feeding your family. A, that's great, and then B, like just on the different labels, on all the different things, like the grocery store beef is not bad for you, like
So
the
like,
all of those sorts of things.
how do I handle it when I see one in the store? Like, how do I respond to that? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, how do you respond? And then like what's your advice like for other people that like maybe want to start understanding more of that side of advocacy?
I would say, I guess if you can find people who talk about that, like follow them, that would be a really
Mhm.
easy way. I have in the past, so the first time I did like a brand shame, and one of the only times was um, in 2017. This is the first time I went viral on Facebook. I was shopping for baby food at the time. I had probably like a 6 month old, 6 or 7 month old. Our oldest was my first daughter, and I was shopping for baby food, and so I got carrots, and it says like GMO carrots on the baby food. There are no GMO carrots. There's no reason to
Mhm.
put this label on there besides the fact that GMOs are safe to begin with. So I like took a picture of it and like my face, and put that on my Facebook page and went wild. And I like tagged Gerber. I shouldn't have done that. Like tagged Gerber and called them out. Like they've never reached out and been like, "Why did you do that to us?" But
Uh-huh.
like there's a better way to do that, and that would have been like to, for now, if I see something like that, I don't do it every time, but if I see one that really annoys me, I will like send them an email company that's like, what, I disagree with this and this is why, and send them like a link or something like that. It may not do anything, but I'm still trying.
Mhm.
I i don't have any problem calling a brand out anymore, but I always make sure that like i'm not I'm not encouraging people like, hey, we're going to boycott this company. Like, I'm
Yeah.
calling you out and we're going to boycott you, because like that is not the way that you move the needle and make meaningful relationships happen. And so I might call it out and be like, hey, I saw this in the grocery store and I just want you to know that this is what this label means. You shouldn't be afraid of this food. And I encourage you to contact the company if you want and say, hey, let's change this labeling, but I'm not encouraging you by any means. And I will like write this out. Like, I am not calling for anybody to boycott this company. Please don't do that.
Yeah.
And so that's how I handle it. But again, I don't do it with every brand or whatever, because I would just be doing that every day if that was the case. So,
Yeah.
anyway, that's kind of how I do it. And then if you want to learn more about those kinds of foods and things like that, follow someone who talks about those things. So like you follow me, I talk about that stuff more often on Facebook than on Instagram. I'm talking about that stuff.
Mhm.
The Food Science Babe is a fabulous content creator, and she has a PhD in some sort of like food science microbiology type thing, and she does great work around like when people are afraid of a specific ingredient, like what that ingredient does, or preservatives in food and why they're there. Like we hear a lot of information on in media about like, well, such and such is banned in EU or something like that. And she does a great job of annihilating those arguments that like it's not banned in the EU. It's just they use it in a different name in the EU or something like that. So like
Mhm.
bringing light to those. So that is one I would say, like, follow her, the Food Science Babe, and then follow me because I also talk about it. So
Yeah, for sure. Definitely follow Brandy. Just plug right there. Go follow
Thank
Brandy
you.
because she's fun. And I think like a big thing that like for me personally as a producer, why I enjoy your platform is that you approach advocacy in a different way. You're not just like going out there and sharing just about your life in agriculture and just about your story, but you're bringing meaningful impact to consumers and meaningful stories and meaningful things of like, hey, like I am here to educate, I'm here to share. Like I used to be in a situation where I didn't know this, and so like now I'm going to share it with you type of thing. And I think that there's a lot of power behind that as a producer or just someone advocating for agriculture that like, hey, I used to be in this boat too. I
Mhm.
didn't know that like this wasn't bad for me, or I didn't know that like it was okay to do this, or I didn't know that grocery store beef was still beef. Like it's still really good quality beef. It's just the reason it looks squiggly like that is because of the grinder and processor that they put it through to put it in the package. Like that's the only reason it looks like that in comparison to the beef that you are getting from your local butcher or things like that. That there are advantages to both, but things like that, that it's really powerful to just show up with truth and honesty on your platform and sharing about your life in that way too.
You are giving me lots of great ideas for stuff to write about. So thank you, Lauren. I appreciate that. Yeah, you're right. Like it's just there are things I didn't know, and so that's great for building common ground, and then also like just the whole. I understand why people are worried about what they feed their kids. Like, because I am
Yeah.
too. Like sometimes I'll see like a study come out about processed food or I don't know something else, and I'll be like worried. And I'm like, wait a minute, I know that's not true. Like, because
Mm-hmm.
but just because fear based marketing works, like it will make me think, oh gosh. And so we can all be, uh, fall prey, maybe a bit too strong of a word, but like it's really easy to like second guess and be worried about what we're
Yeah.
eating. And that's all reasonable because we all want to eat healthy food and feed our families healthy food. And I just like to remind people that like I'm here as a resource. Other people are here as a resource. And like, you should not be fearing your food. That is not what we should do. And I have the same concerns about a lot of things. And so I just try to assuage people. I don't ever want to be accused of using fear to sell anything. And so like when people will say on Facebook or Instagram, it happens a lot more on Instagram, but like, you're just defending grocery store beef because you have something to, or well, like you're defending beef and quote unquote factory farming because you have something to sell us. And I'm like, I will just say like you can't buy my beef unless you live within probably an hour of me. So like I have nothing to sell you on Instagram. I'm not trying to ship beef out across the country. Like that's
Yeah.
not our business plan. I don't want to do that. I applaud other people who do it, but like I'm literally on Instagram not trying to sell you anything. I just want you to not be afraid of your food. And so I just try to come at it from that way and build relationships where I can.
I think that there's a lot to be said about that, like the building relationships where you can, and where it's available to you. Because you're always going to be surprised about what relationships you're able to form, especially through avenues like social media or even just putting yourself in situations where you are in front of a lot of non-ag people. So maybe that is like for me, for example, my biggest like experience of that, like being involved in agriculture but around non-ag people, was like growing up going to the National Western
Oh
and
yeah.
exhibiting there as a kid. And we always were there on like the Mexican rodeo nights and stuff like that. That weekend was always our weekend that we had cattle in the barns. And so my dad always made us, like, we always wanted to like go out to tie outs at a decent time, go get home, go get dinner stuff. He's like, no, you are staying here until 8 o'clock, because guess what? There are going to be a ton of people come through these barns, and they're going to want to know, and they're going to want to see what is going on. They don't want to see an empty barn. They want to see
Oh, that's
cows. They want to see what's
great.
going on and stuff like that. And that was my first experience. And my dad really did an amazing job at being like, no, like, come pet this cow. Like, I want you to get this experience. Like, hey, would you like me to take a picture of you with this absolutely like kid broke show heifer that we've had on the road for 3 years that I'm pretty sure you could like pull on her ear and bite her and she's not going to move, type of thing like that. Like, let's do this, because guess what, Lauren, like, this is the only experience that you're going to have doing this, because guess what, in Northeast Kansas we don't have this. We really don't. So there's a lot to be said about just taking advantage of the opportunities that are presented to you. If you are exhibiting at a livestock show, maybe stay a little bit later, maybe invite local people find different forums to like go invite people to this livestock show. Maybe it's a local county fair, jackpot, whatever it be, like just invite people to come experience. And you're going to be amazed at the connections that you bring out of that.
Yeah, that's great. I love that your dad, instilled that in you. That's a wonderful story.
Yeah, yeah. He did a really good job at being different, and in a way where I was younger, I was super annoyed at it. But now as an adult, I'm like, thank you. I appreciate that.
That is funny.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, for
that's
sure.
great. I think that's fabulous.
Yeah, I think it just goes back to a lot of what you said in the beginning about leading with empathy and leading these conversations with an open mind and an open heart and different things like that that don't subscribe to the fear-based marketing, don't subscribe to all of those other things. We've talked about so many amazing topics today about just like being a positive light advocate for agriculture, whereas like we're not going to go out and advocate and bash another sector of agriculture
Yeah,
while we're
we're not
advocating.
doing that. We're not doing that.
Yeah,
It's
exactly. We're going to share the
2024.
facts.
We're
We're going
doing
to share
that
the
no more.
truth. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And we've just talked about so many amazing topics today that I know like I got a lot of really great encouragement and information out of, and I'm sure the listeners did too. I'd like to start rounding out the podcast a little bit to hear just some of the advice that you have for the next generation of agriculture. The next generation is they're going to be the policymakers. They're going to be the changers. They're going to be the
Mhm.
people that we are in a big wave of what feels like change in society and agriculture and life right now.
Mhm.
I'm sure people probably say that a lot, but it just feels like we are on the brisk of something new, and this next generation is going to be people in the forelines of that. And so I'd love to hear just kind of your advice, what your thoughts are on different things like that.
Well, you gave me the opportunity to think about this question to begin with, and I didn't think about it at all. And now here we are. And I don't know what I'm going to say. Um, I don't know. Like, change is inevitable, and I'm not someone who is very good at last minute changes. Like my husband wanted to. My husband. Oh gosh. Okay, we have to go through this. So we wanted to get a new couch, and so it was like months to find a new couch based on the way we needed the living room arranged and what our house is set up. Our living area is not very big. We have a Peloton, so it was like, where do we do this? So we decided this is how we're going to do it. Well, the new couch arrives, and then my husband like is putting it together and calls an audible and wants to like change the way we're going to do it. And I'm just like, what? This is not what we decided on. I don't want to do this. Blah, blah. Like, it was a whole big thing. And like, I think about how much I despised the change of the way the couch was put together and like arranged in our living room. And then I think about the fact that like, that's how averse agriculture and just people in general can be to change when it's something we are so passionate about in our lives, like our livelihood, farming, ranching, things that are like we are born into, that are in our blood, that we love. And we want to protect those things and protect our livelihood. But change is inevitable, but change can be really hard. And just because it's hard, I think that I'm trying to think of like how to articulate this, because I'm sitting here and I'm like this, not quite midlife lady rancher that's like, hey, we need to change everything. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that like I acknowledge that change is hard, but for us to continue to supply our nation with healthy and sustainable food, like change is inevitably going to happen. And so if that is to be, my advice is to like learn as much as you can from people who have come before, but also don't be afraid to ask questions. Like what Ted Lasso says, be curious. Like
Yeah.
it's okay to ask questions. There's no stupid questions. Just ask questions and learn as much as you can. Not only about agriculture and like, not only about like the growing corn part of it, but like the policies that go into ag production and the market and like options and trading and thing like that. Learn as much as you can, because the more that you can learn, the better informed you are going to be to make decisions at the last minute, like a couch, or when change is coming down the pike and our industry needs a leader. If you're well informed and you ask questions and you have the right mindset, like you can be available for those opportunities. So that would be what I'm my advice is like, don't be afraid of change and be willing to learn, be curious.
Yeah, hey, for feeling very unprepped and coming up with that, that was an amazing piece of advice
I'm a
because
story. I am a storyteller. So
yeah, and you had a story to go with it. Perfect. Like literally perfect. Change is hard. Change is
it was
really
really
hard.
hard.
And we acknowledge that. But I think that there's a lot that can be changed in positive ways in agriculture that is going to continue to advance us and advance us to be able to feed a nation and feed the world and different things like that. And just don't be afraid of it because there's a lot of beauty that can come from change, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment. Even if you are fighting with your husband about where you want to put the couch, and then at the end of the day, you swallow your pride and you let them move the couch, and then you have to really bite your tongue because you're like, well, shoot, that actually looks better and flows better.
I don't
um,
think it looks better, but we just don't have many other options. So it's just what we're going to have to go with. We don't need to get into it. But it's a good analogy that
yeah,
like change is going
yeah,
to happen. Things are going to pop up last minute that you don't expect. And like how you
mm-hmm.
handle those and deal with them is even the small things is how you handle and deal with the large things. And so learn how to handle the
Yeah,
small things so that the big things don't feel so big. I've been writing
yeah.
this down. I'm working on a new keynote that I'm going to have in 2025 about change. And so I just wrote down the couch example and what you just said about, because that was,
Oh,
you nailed that. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad that I'm giving you all of these like little
You
tidbits
are.
of things
You're
that
like
you can
writing
start
it.
writing about and think about and things
You're
like that.
writing
So
it
that's
for me.
oh, I love it. I'm here for it. Hey, if you ever need someone to bounce ideas off of, I'm here. I got you.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Come to Manhattan, we can get lucha
Yes.
and get a Nancy and
Well,
call it good.
I don't like beer, but I am all about that blackberry bean dip. Oof.
Oh my gosh.
The
Oh, if you
raspberry bean dip.
yes, the raspberry black bean dip. Oh my gosh. Y'all, if you ever come to Manhattan, you got to go to Taco Lucha and get some
Mhm.
black bean deep dip, whatever. It's phenomenal, life changing, life altering. I might need to go ask my friend if she wants to go get lunch there now. Jeez, look
Yeah.
what you did to me, Brandy.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to help her supper and you're going to go to lucha. I don't feel like these things are equal.
Okay, that's fair. That's valid. That's yeah. That's what I get for being an adult living in
Oh,
Manhattan. I
that's
still get
okay.
to
I'm
go live it
jealous.
up.
I do miss Manhattan a lot.
Yes, for sure. Well, Brandy, I'm sure you and I could probably talk for days, but thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and just sharing your wealth of knowledge, sharing a little bit more about advocating for agriculture, just truly in a positive light, and standing up for the industry that we believe in and love and flourish in, and all of those things. If somebody listening to this just loved what they heard and can't get enough, would love to hear more from you, where can they find you on all the socials, your blog, all the things?
All the
Just
things.
I'll have it all linked, but
That's
tell them
fine.
too.
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook, Buzzard's Beat by Brandi Buzzard. I am at Brandi Buzzard on Instagram. That's Brandy with an I and Buzzard like the bird. And then you can find my blog is Buzzard's Beat, buzzardsbeat.com. And then I have, like I said, the channel on Acres TV. Acres TV is a free app like that you stream on your computer or on your Roku smart TV, or you can watch on your phone. And it's all agriculture content all the time. There's entertainment, ag entertainment, there's educational ag, there's just watching people do their crop and farming type things. Like, so all kinds of information there. And the show on that is also called Buzzard's Beat by Brandi Buzzard. So if you reach out to me on any of those platforms, I would love to talk more to anyone who wants to.
Yeah, perfect. And as always, we'll have all of it linked down below. So make sure you guys go into the show caption down below and follow all of Brandy's links, get in touch with her. And if you have any questions, I'm sure her DMs are always open and stuff like that. And she'd love to chat more about all of those things. So thank you so much, Brandy, for coming on. And to all the listeners out there, we will see you next week on another episode of The Next Generation. Have a good one, y'all.